Hey friends, welcome to Midweek. I'm glad you're joining with me tonight, and I hope that if you're like me, you took advantage of the beautiful sunshine we've had the last few days. I know it's still a little cool, but man, when you've been in the negative degree weather and all of a sudden you get a 56, 57 degree day, it's like summer vacation. And so I hope that you've taken advantage of that. I hope that you were outside engaging in that, letting the kids play, walking the dog, whatever it may be. It was just so nice to hear the laughter and the communication of the community walking down the street with their loved ones. It gets me fired up for springtime. Tonight, I'm going to challenge you with something. Now, March is coming up. It's right around the corner. And March 1st obviously starts the month of March. There's 31 days in the month of March. And there's 31 Proverbs in the book of Proverbs, 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs. And I hope that you're going to take this challenge as I go through it myself and we walk through the book of Proverbs. Now, I'm not going to do midweeks on it. This is the only midweek I'm going to do on it because I want you to do this on your own, and I want you to go to God each chapter that you read and just ask Him to clarify and to give you wisdom that He wants to so generously give to you. And so tonight I'm going to introduce you to the book of Proverbs, but come March 1st, I want you to kind of read the chapter that correlates to the day that we're living. So March 1st, you'd read Proverbs 1. March 16th, you'll read Proverbs 16, so on and so forth. And so I just hope that this becomes something that you look to, because it was written by the wisest man who's ever lived in the Bible outside of Jesus Christ. So let's talk about him for a moment. His story comes from 1 Kings. And it's a man named Solomon, right? He's David's son. Could you imagine for just a moment being the son of King David? I mean, the guy had a reputation beyond a reputation. This was your dad. This was the guy who loved the Lord with all of his heart. Now, did he make mistakes? Absolutely he did. But God says it himself that David was a man after my own heart. He knew that David pursued God with everything, and his son got to watch in a front row seat to how David lived his life, not only as a follower of Jesus, but as a political leader, as a king, as a governor, as somebody who loved people. And he got to see his dad, David, just reign as the king of Israel. I mean, what a challenge that would be to have to live up to those expectations, right? Could you imagine the whispers of people around you? Like, man, David was a great king, but here's Solomon, bratty old boy. We've known him since he was born. And now he's going to take over. I'm just not sure we're ready for that. And here's the thing. He wasn't sure he was ready for that. And his story, where he starts talking about this, is he became the king. So he's trying to fill into the steps of who his father is. And all of a sudden, there's no temple for God. And so he would always have to go to the highest place he could possibly find and offer his sacrifices to the Lord and try to just have some one-on-one time with God. And I love that God comes and visits him in a dream. And he tells Solomon, just ask of me anything that you desire. And Solomon says, well, God, you know I'm scared. Now, this is my paraphrase, of course. But he says, you know that I'm scared. You know that I have big shoes to fill. And I'm not quite sure I'm ready for the task. I'm not sure I'm qualified. My dad was a great guy. He was a great king. He loved you and he followed you to the best of his ability. And he instilled that nature in me too. And so, God, I'm just going to let you know, I'm scared. I'm scared to govern these people that don't know me that well. I'm scared to make a mistake because I am young. I'm just terrified. So God, the one thing that I would ask of you is that you grant me wisdom so that I can lead your people. I mean, wow. Wow, 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 right? I mean, how many of you, when you read this story and God asks you, and he says, hey, ask anything of me, anything you desire. Would wisdom be at the top of that list? Probably not. Some of you may wish for money. Some of you may wish for freedom. Some of you may wish for, who knows, some selfish, indulgent type of thing that you want, like a new car, not just a new car, a fancy new car. You know what I mean? And so if God were to ask me that, I wonder where my heart would be in that moment, which is probably why God has never said that to me before. Brandon, ask anything you want. Let's talk about it. But God knew Solomon's heart. And he knew that he wouldn't use it on himself. Any desire that he wanted, he wouldn't look for money. And he didn't ask God to strike down his enemies. I'm pretty sure that'd be the first request I'd put out there. Lord, don't let anyone get in my way. Let me just pursue you with whatever I can. And if you throw a Ferrari in there, I'm okay with that too. But that's our prayer a lot of the times, right? We become so self-centered here. And what Solomon is saying is like, God, I know that I don't know what I'm doing. So your wisdom is greatly appreciated here. And God says, you got it. And we see that played out in Solomon's life. There were two women that came to him, both claiming to have a baby. This mother said, that's my baby. This mother said, no, that's my baby. And they brought it before Solomon to judiciate the claim that's being brought before him. And this is where wisdom came in. And he says, you know what? This is a little vulgar, but he says, you know what? We're going to cut the baby in half. And this mother will have half, that mother will have half. And that's a good day's work. Well, the one that wasn't the biological mother thought, you know what, King? That's a great idea. Let's do that. But the one who was the real mother of the boy, she said, I'd rather him be alive and well with a stranger than to be with me. I just wanted to be alive so she can have the baby. And Solomon knew that at that moment, that was the real mother of the child. I mean, what an incredible story, right? And then he comes and he starts to compact all of these notes for you and I to gain wisdom over. It's called the book of Proverbs. And he starts to write these out so that you and I can know that there is wisdom to be found. And I just want to read kind of where he starts off. I'm going to read a little bit of verse 1, or chapter 1, verse 1 through 7. But I'm not going to read the whole thing because, like I said, I want you to get involved in this, all right, starting March 1st. But here's a little snippet, a sneak peek. The very first line says, this is the proverb of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. For attaining wisdom and discipline, for understanding words of insight, for acquiring a disciplined and prudent life, doing what is right and just and fair, for giving prudence to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. Let the wise listen and add to their learning, and let the discerning get guidance. For understanding proverbs and parables, the saying and riddles of the wise. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. I mean, right off the bat, what Solomon doesn't understand is that he's not just speaking for Proverbs, he's speaking for the whole Bible. This is the word of God that has been given to you and I, and this is where wisdom is. So how do we get this wisdom? Well, there's two ways that I understand. One is from the Bible, the Word of God. We've got to start seeking it, right? James tells us that. He says, for any of you who are praying to the Lord, ask for wisdom, because the Lord who loves and who is generous with all things will give that abundantly. But yet we aren't asking for wisdom, right? We're asking for my day to get better. We're asking for my people to love me harder. We're asking for a raise. We're asking for a new this and a new this. And all of our prayers have all of a sudden become inward. And what James is saying is like, hey, if you're a believer, like maybe we should start praying for wisdom, because there's going to be heavy moments that come in your life where wisdom's going to be a great thing for you. So ask the God who gives so generous to the people that he loves for wisdom. And then he says, and then when you pray, don't be like a wave that's being crashed around on the sea, but have a faith that is strong to where you know that you're talking to the Father. I mean, that's for us. So this gift that was given to Solomon wasn't just given to him exclusively. It was given to all of us. It was given to all of us as long as we're seeking it. So my question to you is, what are you doing to seek wisdom? What are you doing in your life to gain the wisdom that God is giving to you? Well, hopefully it's by going through the Word of God and letting his word speak into your life. But the second reason, the second way I think that you and I get wisdom is through our community. Now, I'm not talking about community as in like your town. I'm talking community as in the people you associate with. Because believe it or not, you either become like your social network, you either become like your group of people, or they become like you. And very rarely do we change our whole circle of friends, because it's hard. Right? And most of the time in those circumstances, you have to stand alone. So what happens is that group of people start to change us. Don't believe me? Have you ever heard someone laugh that's super annoying? And then you start to see people hang around them more and more, and all of a sudden all the friends start having the same laugh, and it's driving you nuts because now you realize you laugh that way too. Or maybe here's another example, the way we talk. The way we talk. Where we're with our people and all of a sudden they may have a joke or a one-line phrase that they always say. And all of a sudden when you hang around with them long enough, you start to say those things. And you don't even realize you're doing it. But all of a sudden the other people in your group are like, hey, I noticed you're saying that too. Or maybe we can even go deeper. When you start associating with people who are doing bad things, guess what you're going to be doing? Yeah, probably those bad things. Because the group of people that we align ourselves with are there to shape who we are, whether we want it to be or not. And very rarely do we have enough power within our own influence to change a whole group of people. And so wisdom comes from being able to go to the people who are already good at what you're doing. That's a wisdom thing to do, right? A wise thing to do. And so if you have an aspiration to be something greater, to be a better family man, to be a better musician, to be a better teacher, whatever it is, you probably want to surround yourself with people who are already good at doing that. Let's look at marriage as an example. If I want to be better at my marriage, do you think that I should associate my time around people who have been divorced 6, 7, 8 times? Or should I associate with people who know what commitment looks like, who know that through thick and thin, through sickness and health, when death do us part, that's the relationship I want to cling to. But so often we get influenced by the people around us. And I just hope that on this journey through Proverbs, that as you pray to God to give generously the wisdom that only He can provide to you, that you start getting a clarity over your life, that you start getting a clarity over what God feels about you, that you see clearly the avenue that He wants you to go down, that in the darkest storms of the day, that when wisdom comes, you know how to discern what's right from wrong, the light from the darkness. That's my prayer for you. And so, friends, I thank you so much for joining with us tonight, and I hope that you have an incredible week. We'll see you this weekend. Have a good day.